Hi, this is Frankie Di Vita for 96.7 KCal Rocks. We're once again at NAMM 2012, and I'm here with legendary rock journalist Lonn Friend. Hi, Lonn.
Legends are dead. I'm still alive.
Yeah, very much still alive. And actually,
famous people get rich. Almost famous people don't.
Well, we're
These
gonna
are the distinctions.
we're gonna hope to get you a little bit richer because we're gonna plug your new book now. Show your book.
It's called Sweet Demotion, How an Almost Famous Rock Journalist Lost Everything and Found Himself Almost. It's my midlife tale of revelation and righteous indignation. It has stories about everything. Well, the title's inspired by Steven Tyler. I worked for 3 months with him on his memoir. Check this shot out. While he was entering into addiction of painkillers, I was helping him rewrite his manuscript for what became the book that came out last year that was a big hit. I think I got a thank you along with the chef at his house. Maybe.
Well, this book is really going to appeal to rock fans, as well as your first book.
Life on Planet Rock, my
Life on
first
Planet
book,
Rock.
which was the chronicle of the Rip magazine years. And
For those who don't know, Lonn Friend was the editor of Rip magazine, which was a huge magazine in the rock world.
it was.
You know, you are friend to everyone.
Yeah, that's my last name. Here's the problem with having that as a last name. Everybody thinks they're your friend, and when you don't act like their friend, then they dish it. And that applies to rock stars and human beings walking by on the street. So I've had to reevaluate everything in my life the last few years.
Is that what Sweet Demotion is about?
Yes, that's what this book is about. And I was going to find a little passage to read you about, well, see this photograph of me in Vienna? Okay, this is how weird this book is. This is a walk I took with Dave Bryan from Bon Jovi.
I remember when you went to Austria for that.
He took that photo of me in St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna. But this chapter is really about, I'm at a Jethro Tull concert, and halfway through the show, I walk outside because some power greater than myself summons me to look at the sky. So I go outside and I look at the sky, and I decide I'm not going back into the venue to see the second half of the performance. I'm going to get on a train. There's a platform for the train right next to the arena. And I get on it and I take it till the end of the line. And it's a metaphorical chapter about what life is like as you travel toward the end. And you go through the shadows and the light and the people, and then you get to the end and it's all dark. And I get to the end and I go, wait, I'm not ready for this. I'm going to get back on and go back. That's what happens to me.
So was this book a bit of a emotional release for you?
Yeah. So I'll read you a little bit. So there I was on the train with several cross-eyed Marys on my mind, heading for who knows where. It didn't take long before I'd forgotten both the ladies of the night and the songs from the wood. The train had left the station and I was on board for the duration. The first 6 or 7 stops were uneventful. 2 or 3 new riders, 2 or 3 departures, senior citizens on their way home from work, exhausted, anxious to see family, or worst, a pet waiting in some tiny flat on the periphery of the city. I stared at the cracked face of a Betty Davis to my right and wondered what her life must have been like. How random is that? The cover of the book is a good story. Was designed because he saw my post on Facebook saying, I'm going to self-publish my next book. Would one of you out there like to design the cover? And I got this great email from Billy White Jr., who designed the cover of Appetite for Destruction.
Oh my gosh.
And did the axle tattoo and the cross and the skulls. So he writes to me and he goes, I'd like to take a shot at it, Lonn. And I tell him what the chapter titles are and what the essence of the book is, and he sends me back this diagram. He pulled this photo of my head off of a BlackBerry shot of me on the roof of the Griffith Park Observatory, and he built the cover around
I've seen that shot on your Facebook page.
Yeah, and he built it around this, and I'm honored to have Billy's art in here. It's kind of like full circle because Rip put Guns N' Roses on their first cover in June of 1988, and here it is, my book
See, so it does come back
later.
around.
Well, you know, I have a lot of karma on my side, and okay, there's another chapter in here for those who appreciate Pantera, and there are 3 chapters that take place in the desert. I'm in Las Vegas. I'm self-imposed exile, going through divorce, writing my first book, and entering into a period of real self-examination, meditation, and I'm meeting all these angels in this city that's known for its devils.
Right.
And I'm living with a girl named Carrie, who's the director of the Blue Man Group. We go to a Christmas party 2 nights after Dimebag is assassinated on stage, December 8th, 2004. The company Christmas party's at the Liberace House. We're walking around and there's this bar, host bar, and there's no bottles of booze except for one, Crown Royal. That's it. And she says to me, and she was a mystic, "There he is, babe." Now, shortly after that, we go to see this mystic healer who did a lot of work on me during that period, and he could see angels and he could pull things out of the sky, and he says, your friend who was killed, he's right there over your right shoulder. His spirit is right there, and he has a message for you. And I'm going, okay, because I'm believing all of this at this time in my life. What's going to happen? He goes, just be ready. Now, I tell this in this chapter called Diamond Pocket. I go to New York with Carrie. She's at the Blue Man Group office. I'm in the apartment on Sullivan Street. She says, you should meditate and just open up your laptop. So I meditate, I open up my laptop, and about 1,000 words just pour out of me, and they're not in my voice. They're in Dime's voice. And I know Dime's voice because I was on the road with Pantera. I spent time with them. I love that guy. I love the whole band, but I really understood him.
Yeah.
And I write this thing, and it's like, hey, don't be mad. I know I fucking left or I departed quick, but don't be pissed off. It's my time. And he goes, and then I have some sort of a, higher conscious message in it. But this book is so much about, that's a microcosm of what this book is. It's about putting myself and all my lunacy and my transformation and whatever it is that went through me and still goes through me during this middle time out there for judgment, criticism, appreciation, whatever. And that chapter is probably the one where I stick my dick out furthest. Like, I even say at the end of the chapter, you could call me whack, but from beyond the cemetery gates, I was sent this message.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So where can people get your book?
Amazon. I get a crappy royalty. It was written as catharsis, and the few people that find it seem to appreciate it. It's not for everybody. It's 500 pages. You could use it as a paperweight or a doorstop. It has multiple uses. But I think, people that have followed my writings, this is, as far as developing my voice, this is the best writing, because it's a decade of material that I processed into some sort of a linear narrative.
So one last question, why do you hit the NAMM floor every year? Because I always run into you.
Well, I've done signings here. Sometimes, like 2 years ago, I carried Planet Rocks around on my back, and I just cut into Slash's line, and I sold a whole bunch of books because they all went, I didn't know you wrote a book, Lonn Friend. And I go, yeah, first chapter is Welcome to My Jungle. Because when you're an author like me, you don't promote yourself anymore, you don't market, so you have to go to these places just so they stay visible. I go for the energy to just serendipitously walk around, and Rex Brown will come up to you and hug you, and Snake will come up to you and hug you, and Tom Araya will come up to you and hug you, and then you meet new people. And I hung out with violinists last night, Mark Wood, Trans-Siberian Mark Wood, and it's an energy thing for me. I never have much of an agenda here. What are you doing later, Lonn? I don't know. What are you going to do tomorrow? I don't know, man. And then ultimately I'll wind up somewhere, because there's so much structure about here. These people work so hard all day on their booths, and I just wander. I'm like a leaf on a wing.
I think a few years ago we left here and ended up at a Mexican restaurant in Hollywood.
Yes, most likely. I'm sure there are countless stories. I ran some pictures on Facebook earlier this week about the '88 NAMM show, where it was my first trip here, and I had a RIP booth, and the magazine was just coming into its own. And I have photographs of Hetfield and Tico and Tommy Lee and Robbie Blotzer and Joe Satriani. They all came by because what did I do? I created the Rip Girl. And the Rip Girl was a lesson from Larry Flynn taught to me during my Hustler years, which led up to my Rip years, same publisher. Use the women, use the sex. Larry would always say, you know, sex will always sell, rock and roll's gonna come and go. And I put those up there as sort of like a flashback to, yeah, I've been coming to this thing a long time. I miss a lot of years, but it's always a good vibe when I return. And it makes you feel like we just saw Niels Lozauer. I see him every now and then, but he's a legend. He's 35 years. He shot a lot of stuff for Rip Magazine. Photographer, Eat 'em and Smile, David Lee Roth cover. You know his work, Motley Crue. And you gotta kind of return to the fold, as it were. Because believe me, this book is about me going off the grid. Like, I'm very private. And being a public, semi-public person when you have such a need for privacy is a conundrum that you have to negotiate throughout your adult life.
Well, good luck on selling more of your books.
Thanks for listening to me, Frankie.
And thanks for always putting stuff out, and for all the years of rock info and stories, and because you're really close to it, so
yeah,
some of us that are not appreciate it.
I started writing another book on New Year's Eve. I haven't shaved since New Year's Eve. I just came out of this like really kind of dark winter and said, fuck it, I'm just gonna start writing. And I've written about 24,000 words since New Year's Eve, which is a very stream of conscious, what's coming through, and it's anecdotal, and it's what am I observing about the decline of humanity and the circus of politics, and then
then you'll have a lot to write about now.
Oh, it's laughable, but we're not going into that.
All right, well, thanks, Lonn.
Yeah, thank you.
It's great to see you. From NAMM 2012, it's Lonn Friend.